He was different from his brothers and sisters. Their hair was already turning red like their mother's. He alone took after his father. He was the one gray cub out of all of them. He was also the fiercest of all of them. He could growl the loudest, and he was the first to learn the trick of hurting another cub with his paws or teeth. It was to be expected. He was a meat eater already, and he was brought up to become a meat killer. Most of his first weeks had been spent sleeping, but now with his eyes wide open, he was starting to learn his world quite well. It was a dark world and a very small one, but he didn't know that, as he knew no other world. But he had discovered one strange thing about his world. One of its walls seemed to be made of light through which his father could come and go. The cub himself tried the trick with other walls of his world, but it never worked. He had always felt a strong need to try it with the wall of light, and he always tried to go in the wall's direction, and that was how he learned more things about his mother than her warm, soft tongue, with which she used to stroke him affectionately. It turned out that she also had a sharp nose and strong paws, with which she could hurt when she wanted to punish. Thus he learnt hurt and danger, and he learnt to hide from hurt and to be afraid of danger. Like most animals of the wild, he early experienced hunger. There came a time when his father brought no meat, and milk stopped flowing from his mother's breast. At first the cubs cried and growled, but then they mostly slept, turning slowly into little skeletons, and spake way. One Eye was desperate. He slept little and constantly hunted, but with no success. The she-wolf too left her cubs to look for meat. When the parents finally brought more food, there were only 2 cubs left in the cave, the gray cub and his sister. But the meat came too late for her too. She never woke up again. The family was reduced to the 3 of them. Soon it was reduced even further. There came a time when the gray cub no longer saw his father appearing and disappearing through the wall of light. Wall of light. The she-wolf knew why One Eye never came back, but there was no way by which she could tell her gray cub what she had seen. She had followed a day-old smell of One Eye, and she found him, or what remained of him, outside a lynx's cave. There were signs that told her that the lynx was inside, and that she had a litter of hungry kittens who were now feasting on One Eye's meat. She didn't dare to go in, as she knew the lynx as a bad-tempered creature and a terrible fighter. After that, in her hunting, she always avoided the path up to the lynx's cave. By the time his mother began leaving her cave to hunt, the great cub had learnt well that he should be afraid of the wall of light. But there were other forces at work in him apart from the fear. The greatest of them was the need to grow. It demanded overcoming this fear. And one day, after his mother had left, the gray cub began to walk slowly towards the wall of light. He expected the worst but felt ready for it. But, to his great surprise, he was going through the wall, just like he had seen his parents go through it before. And it didn't hurt at all. He grew bolder with every step. He didn't notice that the next step would be on the air, and the next moment he was falling head downwards and rolling down the slope, crying at the top of his voice. When at last he came to a stop, he gave one long and loud cry of fear, but nothing happened and his mother didn't come to his rescue. So he sat down and looked around as might the first man to land on Mars. He smelled the grass, looked at the trees and bushes, and at the blue and green open space between them. He saw a squirrel, and fear paralyzed him again. But the squirrel was just as scared of him as he was of it. It ran up a tree crying in a strange voice. This gave him a little confidence. He moved on and looked around more. He was learning. There were live things and things not alive. The things not alive could be expected to stay in one place. But the live things moved, and there was no telling what they might do. He had beginner's luck. As he wandered around this newly discovered world, he suddenly fell into a large hole full of moving live things. It was a nest of a bird who had left her chicks and had gone to look for food for them. The chicks jumped around and made a lot of noise. At first they frightened him and he cried, but then he noticed they were very small, much smaller than him. He picked one up in his mouth. Suddenly he realized he was hungry, and as his jaws closed on the small chick and warm blood ran into his mouth, he felt happier than ever before. He ate all the chicks. When he was finally moving out of the nest, a big live thing started to cry and beat him with large, feathered wings. It was the mother bird who realized he had destroyed her nest. She was in a fury, but he had just killed and enjoyed it. He didn't see anything wrong with it and wanted to kill again, so he started to fight back. But the bird was much bigger and stronger than him. Apart from the large wings, she had a strong beak with which she delivered painful blows on the cub's soft nose. Finally, he gave up and left the bird to cry over her destroyed nest. He had learned a new law: live things were meat. They were good to eat, but if they were big enough, they could hurt. So it was better to eat small live things like chicks, and to leave alone large live things like mother birds. He would have looked for more little live things to fight against if his nose hadn't hurt. Luckily, his mother came back and found him crying quietly beneath a bush. She recognized the signs of a battle on his nose and fur. She licked him affectionately and took him back to the cave to rest. Since that day, the cub developed even faster than he had done before. Soon he began to accompany his mother on her hunts for meat. He saw much killing and began to play his part in it. He started to understand the law of meat. The aim of life was meat. Life itself was meat. Life lived on life. There were the eaters and the eaten. The law was EAT or BEAT.